What she said to me, the thing that stayed was this: I don't think anyone has ever actually seen me and stayed. She didn't say it with anger. It came out the way someone says something they rehearsed in private. Finally, just letting it go in a room where it felt safe enough to land. She's in her early 40s, runs a team, carries herself with the steadiness that makes everyone else lean in. From the outside, she looks like someone who has arrived. And she had, just not to herself. What she was describing wasn't loneliness in the ordinary sense. It was the particular exhaustion of having been in hundreds of rooms and none of them holding the version of her that was actually there. Being known, but not as yourself. Present, but performing. Most people who do real identity work hit a wall they didn't expect. It's not the work itself. The work is hard, but it is familiar to you. You know how to endure. People rarely prepare for what happens when the work starts to show. What happens when people get glimpses of the new you, and you don't know what to do with their response. Certain people get confused. Some try to pull you right back into the dynamic you lived in for years, because that dynamic, at least, made sense to them. So you learn to manage the reveal. You get good at reading the room before you speak. At home, the new identity remains intact, but you slip right back into the old one at dinner with certain people. You're not being dishonest. The truth is, you have simply decided that being fully known is a risk, one that you aren't sure the relationship can hold. That's the contract. It sounds like consideration. Underneath, what it actually is this: you don't fully trust that the real version of you is worth knowing. Someone I work with put it this way. She said she had changed so much, but she still edits herself around the people she loves the most. I asked her why. She sat with that for a second and said, if they reject the real me, I have nowhere left to land. This isn't a fear of rejection. It's a self-concept that hasn't caught up with the identity you built. Editing isn't protecting the relationship. It's protecting the old story. The one that says the version of you that struggled, that's the real one. The older self managed people's reactions just to survive. The new one, it's just a performance. That's the inversion. It's the very last thing the old identity holds on to. What it actually looks like when you cross this threshold is quiet. It's not some grand declaration where someone says all the right things. The reality, it's much smaller than that. It's a conversation where you say something true, something you would have softened a year ago, and the person you're talking with doesn't flinch. They move toward you instead of away. You're not waiting for the catch, you just let it land. You don't need to explain it away. The only thing left is to let yourself be received. She told me what that felt like. The feeling was like holding her breath for 2 years. She finally exhaled, and nobody in the room looked up in alarm. The conversation just continued, and she was in it, fully as herself. That's what being fully known in the new identity feels like. It's not applause. It's just a quiet experience of being in a conversation as who you are. The identity underneath that moment is not about finally being accepted. It's something more settled than that. I no longer need to hide the version of me I worked so hard to become. That's the threshold. One question to carry with you today. Who in your life are you still editing yourself for? And what are you telling yourself you're protecting by doing that? Sit with this. If this landed, it landed because something in you recognized the edit. You know the exact version of yourself you're still managing, and you know it's not actually about them. You don't need more time. What is actually required is a new threshold. With Strength and Heart, I'm Shawn Michael. Stay close. We spend a lot of time on this show talking about the threshold, the space between the identity that got you here and the one required for the new ground. You're listening to this because something in your current architecture is fracturing. You're running the performer playbook or the striver protocol, and it's costing you an immense amount of energy to maintain the facade. The external results are there, but the internal friction, it's burning you out. Most people will let this episode end and go right back into the performance. They'll put the mask back on for their next Zoom meeting and keep relying on the identity that's actively caging them. I'm looking for the leader who's done performing. If you're ready to look at the structural identity collapse happening beneath the surface, we need to map your architecture. Go to the link in the show notes, book your identity clarity call. We'll identify the exact survival identity running your calendar and begin the shift into conscious leadership. Stop performing, start becoming.